what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. And today we have a breaking news update, guys. This is a big one, as we have a trade alert ahead of the NHL trade deadline. The Colorado Avalanche, Joe Sakic, not wasting any time, making a massive trade with the Anaheim Ducks. So we'll be going over that today. So, let's get right into it. So, the Anaheim Ducks have traded one of their trade chips. Now, I just made a video talking about how Josh Manson may be on his way out. It seems like it sounded like the Ducks were going to keep Josh Manson. Of the three guys, being Rickard Rakell, Hampus Lindholm, and Josh Manson, it looked like Manson was the closest to staying in Anaheim. And all of a sudden, Josh Manson is now a member of the Colorado Avalanche. This is a massive trade for the Anaheim Ducks. We'll get into that, but this is also a big trade here for the Avs, and I'll explain that. So let's get the context of this deal. So obviously, like I mentioned, Josh Manson was the one that I was expecting to stay in Anaheim. I'm a little bit shocked that he's the first one to go. Now, maybe that means they put more focus on re-signing Hampus Lindholm, which it sounds like they are trying to negotiate contract talks there. So maybe this is a forthcoming to that. They've decided we're going to try and keep Lindholm, and we're more willing to let Manson go now. Now, here's the details of the trade. So the Anaheim Ducks acquire defenseman Drew Helleson, which was a second-round draft pick in the NHL draft, and a 2023 second-round pick of the Colorado Avalanche. For the Avs, what do the Avalanche get? Well, obviously they get defenseman Josh Manson, and they also get 50% of his $4.1 million salary retained by the Anaheim Ducks. So it comes to around $2 million that they're actually, is going to be counted against the Avalanche's salary cap for what most would argue is a very capable top four pairing defenseman. I would say a good second pairing defenseman. So let's break it down. So that is the trade. So you look at the one side, right? So what do the Anaheim Ducks get? Well, the Anaheim Ducks, this is good for the Ducks in a couple of different ways. So the first way is, this is a highly prized prospect. Drew Helleson, yes, it's not Bowen Byram, but let's be honest. Were they going to get Bowen Byram for Josh Manson? No. But Drew Helleson is a hell of a good prospect. So the Ducks have acquired defenseman Drew Helleson, and this is from the NHL.com, and a second-round pick. Hallison, who is 20 years old, represented Team USA at the 2022 Winter Olympic Games in Beijing, recording 1 assist in 3 tournament contests. He has recorded 4 goals, 21 assists, and 25 points in 30 penalty minutes in 32 games as a junior this season at Boston College in the Hockey East Conference. The 6'3", 204-pound defenseman has collected 46 points, a plus 26 rating in 82 games with Boston College and the Eagles. He was named to the NCAA Second All-American Team, a Hockey East First-Team All-Star, and the best defensive defenseman in 2021 after scoring 15 points with a plus 23 rating in 22 games in 2021. He ranked third among all NCAA skaters in plus minus. This is a guy that's been talked about a lot. Drew Helleson seems to be a guy that people are very high on. And it was rumored he may have gone to the Flyers in a Claude Giroux trade. Originally selected by the Colorado Avalanche in the second round, which was 47th overall in the 2019 NHL Draft, Hollison recorded 63 points in the U.S. National Team Development Program in the under-17 and under-18 teams from 2017 up until 2019. A native of Farmington, Minnesota, Hallison helped Team USA to a gold medal at the 2021 World Junior Championship, scoring 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points with a plus 9 rating in 7 tournament games to lead all defensemen in goals. He also helped Team USA to a gold medal at the 2018 World Junior Under-17 Hockey Challenge, and bronze at the 2019 Under-18 World Championship. So this guy has a great pedigree, a lot of winning, especially at the U.S. National Development Team program level. Lots of winning, high accolades in the NCAA as a very good defenseman. This was a really good pickup for the Anaheim Ducks. And again, you also get the second round pick, which the Avalanche could not give up their second round pick this year because they're still paying the Islanders for the Devon Toews trade, which I'm sure they're fine with giving up the 2 second round picks for Toews at this point. I think that is clearly a steal, but they're still giving up their second round pick this season. So they had to, Joe Sakic had to reach into the draft pick cupboard for next year. So now they're giving up second round picks a year from now. So I think this is one of those trades that's setting the market. Now you look at defensemen, Josh Manson in the marketplace isn't even one of the most highly regarded defensemen. And I'm trying to remember who said this on the NHL broadcast, but they were talking about how, you know, when you talk about Josh Manson in the marketplace this year, he is at the floor of the high guy. Like in the higher tier players, he is the base level of those guys. In terms of guys that were available, like Klingberg, like Hampus Lindholm, and Jacob Chikrin, who is now off the market at this point because he's going to be injured for the next 2 to 4 weeks with an injury. So that definitely affects the market in that regard. So the Anaheim Ducks, I think they did really well in this trade. Like I said, they're picking up what seems like should be a top 4 defenseman in the NHL. And they also pick up the second round pick next year. So I don't see how this is a really bad trade here for the Ducks. And that's the guy on the Ducks that of the 3 is probably the least valuable in my regard. I would say Rickard Rakell and Hampus Lindholm would fetch more return than Josh Manson. So if this is what they get for Josh Manson, it's going to be interesting to see what they get for Rakell and Lindholm, as with the assumption that they don't re-sign with Anaheim. So that is really interesting for the Ducks. I think the Ducks did really well in this trade. Now let's look at it from the Avalanche continue for the Ducks here. The Ducks have already been rumored. They're looking at specifically another player. Let me see if I could find him. They've been tied to, over in Chicago's, Dominic Kubalik, and that is from Ben Pope, who is a Blackhawks insider. The Ducks have emerged as frontrunners for Dominic Kubalik. Now they have the cap space to bring in Dominic Kubalik because they just traded out $2 million worth of Josh Manson and his contract. So this ends up helping the Ducks in that sense that they have more cap space to work with, so they can maybe bring in another player, or who knows, maybe they trade that 2023 second round pick to bring in Dominic Kubalik. Again, this is a really good trade from that perspective for the Ducks. Now, like I said, let's get to the Avalanche perspective. Now, I just saw the Avalanche 2 weeks ago when they played the New York Islanders. They are a legit team, and they're going all in this year. Joe Sakic, not to mention, now just got $17 million freed up in cap space as Cale Makar and Gabe Landeskog have both gone on the IR. And that would sound like the sky is falling for the Avalanche, right? They lose their best forward, they lose their captain, they lose their best defenseman. It's the end of the world for the Avalanche, except that's not the case. Chances are both Landeskog and Makar, as long as they don't play for the rest of the regular season, their cap hits will not cost for the rest of the regular season, which means the Avalanche put them on LTIR for the remainder of the regular season. We're seeing the same effect here with Vegas, with Mark Stone, what we've seen from the Tampa Bay Lightning in the past. They just freed up $17 million in cap space, and Joe Sakic, within 24 hours, has already pulled the plug and spent $2 million to bring in Josh Manson. Now, Josh Manson, 30 years old, recorded a pretty good total. He's picked up 26 goals, 87 assists, in 113 points with his 453 games in Anaheim. The 6'3", 218-pound defenseman has 9 points in 45 games this year with the Anaheim Ducks. And he actually scored the other night against the Islanders, which, as a Ducks fan, that was my last time seeing number 42 with the Ducks in person. He has appeared in 22 career Stanley Cup playoff games. He's got 3 assists and 20 penalty minutes. Selected by Anaheim in the 6th round. Again, you talk about those depth draft picks. People say, oh, who cares? It's a 6th round pick. He just fetched basically 2 second-round picks just a few years later. He was drafted 160th overall in the 2011 NHL draft. It's crazy what a decade and a little bit of draft development does. Manson played 3 seasons with Northeastern in the same league as Drew Helleson in Northeastern at Hockey East from 2011 till 2014. The Hinsdale, Illinois native compiled 21 points. He's been a good player as well. He was being named Hockey East second team All-Star and the best defensive defenseman after captaining Northeastern to a 19-14-4 record in the 2013-2014 season. So that is what the Anaheim Ducks gave up, and this is what the Avalanche get. Now this is where things get more interesting for the Avalanche, because as well as the Ducks did in this deal, the the Colorado Avalanche did just as good. Now, the reason I say that is Josh Manson, you look at his numbers, advanced stats-wise, Josh Manson is not that good. You look at what he's put up in terms of his career numbers, he's not a goal scorer, he doesn't put up a ton of points in general, but he's that sandpaper, boom defenseman, and the Avalanche just got a whole lot deeper. Now, again, because the Anaheim Ducks took 50% of that salary, that's only $2 million on your cap. And at worst, he's your third pairing guy because your team is healthy. And at worst, if your team is really, you have a couple injuries in your top 4, Josh Manson can play as a second pairing defenseman for 5 to 10 games if you need him to, even 15 games, even for the rest of the regular season. And they still have all this cap space. The Avalanche are not done. If you think that they brought in Josh Manson, they traded their second round pick and Drew Helleson, they are not done yet. I can definitely see the Avalanche making more moves here ahead of the trade deadline. And I think this is Joe Sakic saying to the NHL, listen guys, we're here. We're talking business and we are here trying to win a Stanley Cup. The Avalanche's window is right now. You have Nathan MacKinnon on the final year of his sweetheart contract. That's going to change this summer. There's going to be a lot of change in Colorado this summer, but I know Joe Sakic is looking right now. He's seeing how well his team is playing, and he goes out and says, you know what? We've had a great regular season so far. I'm going to invest into this team this year, and we go out and we acquire a player. And that's sending a message to the locker room. That's sending a message to the team that he believes in what's going on right now in that locker room in Colorado. They've been incredible. They had that great stretch on the East Coast. Unfortunately, my Islanders were a casualty of that. They just beat the Calgary Flames, which are one of the better teams in the Pacific Division. They just creamed them 3-0, a shutout. The Avalanche are for real this year. And if you thought for a second, oh, this means they're out on Giroux, that means they're out on some of these other guys, don't kid yourself. Joe Sakic is not done yet. And I think this is the first of many moves that Joe Sakic will make here ahead of the trade deadline. I'm trying to find here on Cap Friendly just to see what the Avalanche have here. So in terms of current cap space, so they have a projected cap hit of $81.6 million spent this year, which is just mind-blowing. But you look at the money they have saved right now on the LTIR. Let me see if I could find it. Let's see. It's not going to show it to me, is it? Right? Can't do that for me. Okay, yeah, so this is what we're looking at here, right? So the Avalanche, you look at what they've got. I mean, they've traded, you look at their first and second round picks for the next couple years. The next 3 years, they traded their first round pick, their second round pick this year. They traded their second round pick in 2023. And they also traded their third round pick in 2024. So you look at what they have left, and they traded their fourth round pick for this year and next. So ideally, you're looking at your third round picks for this year and next, your first round pick next year, which the Avalanche, you might not want to trade that one. You have your 2024 second round pick, and you look at some of the prospects. I mean, Bowen Byram, I think that's a bit of a stretch in terms of a a rental trade. If they were to trade for Jacob Chikrin, I could see that being on the table. I don't think they're going that route. I think they're going to go with a guy like Claude Giroux, right? One of those guys, I could see that second round pick getting traded. Some depth guys that could get traded. Look at guys like Shane Bowers, who was a part of the Matt Duchene trade. I'm looking at guys like Martin Kaut. I'm looking at guys like Callahan Burke, Mikhail Maltsev, who they got from the New Jersey Devils, Justin Barron, Roland McEwen. Those are the kind of guys that you're looking at. I truthfully, if the Avalanche are going to get Claude Giroux, they're going to give up one of those guys. They're not going to give up a Bowen Byram. They're not going to give up some of those top prospects. I could see them giving up Justin Barron, though. I don't see them giving up both, but if they give up Barron or Bowen Byram, I could see one of those guys getting moved at this year's deadline. This is the year for the Avalanche. I think Joe Sakic knows it. I think Nathan McKinnon knows it. I think Gabriel Landeskog knows it. I think Jared Bednar knows that. This is the season for the Avalanche. And you look at their chances here, they're projected to win the President's Trophy for the most points in the NHL, and they just added a really good depth defenseman. I think this is a great trade for both sides. Long term, it's absolutely a win for the Ducks. They're going to get that top four defenseman they just lost in Josh Manson, and they also have a second round pick. Now again, you're paying, you're buying the potential of Drew Helleson. You're buying the potential of that second round pick. It's just mad, this is from Steve Dangle. It's the perfect analogy for this. It is, you're trading for magic beans at this point, and you're hoping for potential. And that's what the Anaheim Ducks have done here. And hopefully those magic beans pay off. Hopefully they develop, turn into great assets. But for the Anaheim Ducks, great trade. For the Colorado Avalanche, also a great trade. They pick up a defenseman that could be a 4-5 defenseman at $2 million for the remainder of the season. That's a really good trade for the Avalanche as well. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. With this trade, both these teams have set themselves up to make other moves ahead of the trade deadline. We still have a week till the deadline. So guys, buckle up, because this is the first of, I think, many dominoes to fall here ahead of the trade deadline. So if you are not subscribed already, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Turn on the bell and the notifications button down below to stay updated on trades like this, as well as other stuff going on. It's going to be a busy, busy week. So if you guys could help support me, that would definitely be much appreciated. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.